But it was on August 13th of 2004 that I started our network marketing company. So it's 21 years since the birth of LifeWave.
That is an incredible accomplishment. Happy birthday to LifeWave.
Happy birthday,
And
LifeWave.
thank you on behalf of all of us for creating this wonderful company and for bringing these innovations and these opportunities to all of us. I know it's changed my life already in the short time that I've been here. And I love hearing the stories from brand partners around the world on how their lives have been changed as well. So thank you for creating this. Thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Oh, privilege is mine. It's been an absolutely incredible journey. And another part of trivia is that July 13th of 2002 is when I started what was called at that time LifeWave Products, which was going to be the development company, which was the development company for the patch technology. And then later on, I merged that into LifeWave, so it all became one business. So 23 years and going strong. And we're obviously, at the top of our game because of our amazing brand partners. And it's been such a privilege to be able to work with our brand partners globally and bring this technology out to market. And looking forward to many, many great years ahead with our community. And of course, for those that come to our conference in October, not only are they going to have the opportunity to see Sir Elton John, but they're going to get some phenomenal product trainings on X39, product trainings on X2O. They're going to learn how to build their business on X2O. We've got a number of surprises I'm not going to talk about. Great business trainings, guest speakers. Of course, you and I will be there and we'll get a chance on stage together. And there's lots and lots of things for us to feel great about as we get into conference in October.
Absolutely. We want as many people to join as possible to be at that incredible event. Their tickets are going fast. There's still a little bit left, but so if anyone out there has not yet registered, please go ahead and register now and secure your spot so you get to experience all those things you just mentioned.
Yeah, now one other item I should bring up before I let you go is what was the subject of today's webinar supposed to be about? As I
I
recall from your marketing team, the message that I was given was that this should be about X39, carnosine, and cognition.
That is exactly what I have. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, that is the subject I was asked to speak about, but quite frankly, I thought that was a little boring.
Okay.
So, and no disrespect to the marketing team because it's an excellent choice, but I took it on my own to spice things up a little bit. So today, in fact, we will be talking about X39, carnosine, and cognition. But as an added bonus, I want to talk about the relationship between the health of the brain, cognition, and sexual function. So a lot of people, let's say a lot of men. I'm 62, and I of course don't suffer from this problem. But a lot of men, as they get older, they suffer with declining sexual libido. And interestingly enough, this can be linked back to cognition. So this is to say that a lot of men are looking towards drugs like Viagra. They're looking to hormone replacement therapy. And I'm not knocking these things, but there are natural solutions that men should try before going the route of getting on drugs they're going to be on the rest of their life. That's going to not only have the benefit of improving their sex drive, their testosterone levels, their overall sexual health and performance, but they get the added bonus is that this improves cognition as well. This is also applicable to women, but from a little bit different perspective. So that's an extra bonus that we have today. We're going to dig into the benefits of X39 and carnosine. I'm also going to be sharing a number of supplements and dietary changes that you can make to improve your cognition, improve your memory and focus, your alertness, overall capacity to process information, and this will have a direct improvement on your sex life. So, one thing at a time. So, let's start at the very beginning. Now, first, to start us off, we're going to look at two studies that are in our back office. So you can go ahead and read through these studies at your leisure. You simply go to the back office, go to the resource section, and you'll see our studies there. So this first one is in the X39 section. Now, we've got now over a dozen studies that we've done on X39. We've done blood tests, urine tests, bioelectrical tests. This was an early study that we did, and it came as a result of looking at the initial urine data that we did on X39. So first, there were the blood tests. We would apply X39 and find out that it does elevate copper peptide to statistical significance. And you can see some of those studies in the back office. Then we did a urine study to look at the metabolism. So the question is, if we're elevating copper peptide, what are some of those benefits? And one of the benefits that we saw was that X39 was elevating GABA. Now, GABA is one of the key nutrients in the brain as associated with cognition. It promotes a sense of relaxation. We'll talk about that in a moment, and we'll answer the question, if X39 is designed to produce the health and vitality of the body, if we know that copper peptide improves the activity of stem cells in the body, what does that have to do with GABA and the brain? We're going to answer that question. So we wanted to see, all right, exactly what's happening in the brain. And we worked with Dr. Gaetan Chevalier, who spoke at one of our conferences back in 2019, 2020 on X39. And he did this study with a P3 system looking at what happens in the human brain. So we did these scans. Now, session 1 is baseline. So this means this is what the scan looked like at the very beginning. You'll see in this participant, a 77-year-old woman. Now, what's significant about this is that we know as people get over the age of 60, the stem cell activity in the brain begins to decline. And by the age of 75, cells stop dividing. So we wouldn't expect to see a dramatic change in these readings in someone that is 77. And what Dr. Chevalier had said to me at the time was that to see the shifts of this magnitude could take 9, 10, 12 months. Now, what we want to see is brain coherence. So you can think of, in simplistic terms, these red zones in session 1 at baseline before any patch is applied. Those are areas of disharmony. Session 2 is 3 weeks after X39, and session 3 is 6 weeks after X39. So essentially, what's happening is the brain is going into a state of coherence over this 3 to 6 week period of time. So the practical outcome of that is that use of X39 is going to help produce a relaxation response and also produce an improvement in cognition. You can go through the study yourself and you can see these additional scans. We're not going to do it now. You can see in this woman, age 67, the brain was in terrible state where the different regions of the brain are not in coherence relative to bioelectrical signaling, and you could see that she made a dramatic improvement after 3 weeks and an even more dramatic improvement after 6 weeks. So another benefit of this is if you have people using X39 for a week, such as this woman that's 67, after a week, she may not notice that been a very big shift. After 3 weeks, she'll say, yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And then after 6 weeks, there's a dramatic change. So this is why it's very important that people use the product for at least a month and preferably 2 or 3 months to see some of these dramatic improvements. Okay, now let's take a look at the Carnosine patch. So this was a study that was done by Dr. Tom and Helen Budzinski. And Dr. Tom Budzinski, extremely well known in the literature for his work in biofeedback. There's even college textbooks that he's written on this subject, highly respected. So we had the privilege of working with Dr. Budzinski on a number of products like Eon and Carnosine. And he had a particular interest in cognition, as well as he had been doing research through his career on various treatments for Parkinson's disease. So it was absolute pleasure to get the opportunity to speak with him about these approaches. So basically, the objective was if we took a group of people that are over the age of 60 and they were using the Carnosine patch, would we expect to see an improvement in cognition? Would their memory improve, short-term, long-term memory? Would the speed of processing improve? These are some of the measures that we wanted to look at because there was literature that would show that the use of Carnosine supplements would in fact improve cognition. So this would be a good measure to see whether or not the Carnosine patch was working in a similar manner to Carnosine supplements. So in this study, again, this is in the back office. You can read through this if you like and look at the data, or you can just skip down to the bottom here like we're going to do. Carnosine patches definitively have shown their worth in the study by those in the treatment group achieving significant improvement in cognitive functioning. The microcog gives information and asks for feedback, in the meantime measuring speed, reaction time, accuracy, and memory. The test is useful because we were able to probe for more in-depth proficiency and processing. The test showed us that the more complex thought processes were most effectively improved. And that would mean that the Carnosine patch, this is another conclusion reached in the study, the Carnosine patch acts to reduce the stress elements of the heartbeat. And we had shown in other studies that the Carnosine patch improves the electrical response of the organs in the body. And this makes sense because as an antioxidant, Carnosine is found rather selectively in the brain, in the eyes, in the heart, and in the muscle. So we expect there to be an anti-inflammatory effect, an anti-glycation effect with Carnosine. So this shows, in fact, that after 30 days of use of Carnosine, we get a statistically significant improvement in people over the age of 60. So there could be, we haven't tested this, but there could be then, since they're different mechanisms, a synergistic effect in using X39 and Carnosine together. Okay, let's get to number of studies here. Now, this one I just happened to pull up. This came through the news yesterday. And interestingly, this is a link between cognition, dementia, and mitochondrial function. So what's important about this is that now it's showing what we've been talking about all along, that our health, our overall health in a variety of ways is intimately connected to mitochondrial function. And the really good thing about that is that there are a whole variety of ways of improving mitochondrial function. We've talked about some of those things in the past relative to the use of our products. and we're absolutely not making any claims that we're treating any kind of disease. There are nutrients like acetyl L-carnitine and alpha lipoic acid that will upregulate mitochondrial function. Our X2O product, which is now coming out this week, using the light infused water, we can upregulate mitochondrial function for improvement in health and wellness. So this is a very significant study because what this means is that if we have a clean, healthy diet, we provide our bodies with the nutrients that we need. We exercise regularly, drink clean water, supplement where necessary, so we can maintain the health of our mitochondria, get proper sleep. We potentially can prevent all different types of chronic disease. So that's wonderful information. And again, we never claim that any of our products treats or prevents disease. So we probably want to know, what is cognition in the first place? And here's a website that has a very nice definition. But essentially, one way that we can think about this is very first sentence here. It's a range of mental processes relating to the acquisition, storage, manipulation, and retrieval of information. So we're simply talking about our ability to store information and recall information. And apologies for the noise in the background. Okay, so let's look at X39 and let's look at what X39 does. It's designed to elevate the peptide GHK and GHK-Cu. So being very clear, this is a study that has been used on absorbing copper peptide through olfaction, through breathing it in. This is not a LifeWave study that we've done. And another important thing to note is that this has been done on aging mice. So very, very common in the literature is that when we see studies that work in mice or other animals, they don't necessarily translate over to human beings. Reason why mice are used in studies is because their immune system, for example, closely mimics the immune system of human beings. So you can take this as a data point, as a potential indicator. But what's important here is results showed that mice treated with intranasal copper peptide had an enhanced level of cognitive performance. Now, this just happens to be consistent with the studies that we've done on X39. Okay, that noise in our workshop, I've got my lab behind me. I'm going to step away for a minute and I will be right back.
David, we actually don't hear any background noise, just so you know.
Thank you. Okay, I would love to tell you what they were building back there, but we'll save that for another time. All right, apologies for that delay. Okay, so one of the things that we found in our studies that I mentioned before was that X39 we found in the urine studies was elevating GABA. And that was incredibly exciting because it provided an indication, a clue that GABA of what the method of action was is improving cognition. So first of all, GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Now, at first, that may sound like a bad thing, but GABA is going to balance out glutamic acid or glutamate. And this is important because GABA is able to put the brain into a state of relaxation. And it's one of the critical neurotransmitters in the brain. And again, if we wanted to look at what are some of the benefits of GABA, people use it to improve the quality of sleep, So if you're having a problem sleeping, you could take GABA potentially, reduces stress and anxiety. Of course, we have products if you're suffering with stress and anxiety. We have the Eon patch. And if your stress is interfering with the quality of sleep, that's one of the things you could use the Eon patch at night as opposed to having to take a GABA supplement. Of course, many people find that because X39 improves their levels of GABA, that when they start using X39, their sleep improves. So now you know why. Okay, now a question would be, what does this have to do with stem cells? What does this have to do with the other functions that we see with X39? Well, this will underscore just how important GABA is. Breakthrough study reveals new insights into GABA, the brain's key signaling molecule. So if we take into consideration everything that our human brain will do, we look at the pineal gland, which effectively is a receptacle for biophotons coming through the eyes, and we get neurohormone precursors that are released by the pineal gland to direct the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is going to control the temperature of the body. It's going to control our immune response, hormone production. Uh, so neurotransmitters like GABA, like acetylcholine, play a pivotal role in allowing the brain to do what it does. So when we're looking at X39 influencing levels of GABA in the brain, this should not be underestimated as to the power of this one single molecule. Now, we were looking at improving the levels of GABA is one thing, but when we look at those scans that Dr. Chevalier did, and we see these dramatic improvements over a period of as little as 3 weeks, we would form a hypothesis and say this should have something to do with stem cell activity. Stem cells have to be involved in tissue repair. And we're seeing this tissue repair on a massive level. So the question then is, how is X39 improving the health and wellness of the brain in such a short period of time? So we do the blood studies. We see that X39 improves the levels of GABA, and GABA has an intimate relationship with brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And BDNF, as it turns out, is a signaling molecule for stem cells. And here is a study on the relationship between BDNF and GABA. And as we go to this next study, BDNF increases cell number of neural progenitor cells derived from human-induced pluripotent stem cells. So now we close the loop on this activity. So now we can see that you use X39. It's designed to elevate copper peptide. This supports healthy levels of GABA, improves the quality of sleep, improves cognition, and that in turn supports healthy levels of BDNF, which is helping to maintain the level of stem cell activity in the body. So this is important because at the start of all this, we're using light, completely non-toxic, no side effects, works with the body's natural communication system to improve our health and wellness. Okay. Now, another important thing that's worth talking about briefly is the connection between copper peptide, oxidative stress, and inflammatory stress. So we know the brain is mostly fats, and this is important because fats are highly susceptible to oxidation. And as we age, we want to be able to manage our oxidative and inflammatory stress so that we can maintain our cognition throughout our entire life. When we look at species that don't age, the same recurring theme shows up, is that in all these species, we could be talking about mollusks, whales, lobsters, hyperactinia, they have complete control over oxidative and inflammatory stress. There was a clam that was found to be over 500 years old, no signs of inflammation or oxidative stress. Lobsters, there was a lobster found to be 140 years old, and again, no inflammatory or oxidative stress. The muscle in the lobster, the meat of the lobster, was the same as a young, healthy lobster. So we know that we need to have mastery over our oxidative inflammatory stress if we're going to slow down, stop, reverse aging. And in this case, we want to preserve the ability of our brain to process information, preserve our memory. And copper peptide is one tool that we can use to do that. So here's a study that you can see at your leisure on the role of copper peptide in preventing oxidative stress and degenerative conditions of aging. And this, of course, was done by Dr. Lauren Picard, the scientist that discovered copper peptide. I hope he wins a Nobel Prize. He certainly deserves it. All right, we've talked a lot about copper peptide, so let's go now and talk about carnosine. So carnosine, of course, we have our carnosine patch, and be worth noting in Celergise, we have nutrients that support the formation of copper peptide and support the formation of carnosine. So when you see beta alanine in Celergise, the beta alanine is there, so you get the raw materials that you need to make carnosine. So we looked at one of our studies on the use of the carnosine patch to improve cognition. Now here's a study that was done as recently as 2021. Carnosine improves aging-induced cognitive impairment and brain regional neurodegeneration. Now, we are not, again, suggesting that any of our products prevent, treat, or cure disease. That would be irresponsible. We do not do those studies. So it's worth it to go into the literature and look at how are natural ingredients like carnosine, how are these natural antioxidants being used to help improve our health. So this is really a great example. Carnosine supplementation improves cognitive outcomes in younger participants. Now, often when we think of a decline in cognition, we're thinking of maybe people over the age of 40, 50, 60. And there are many tools that we have at our disposal, such as eating a clean, healthy diet, proper rest, proper sleep, so totally important, exercise. All of these things are going to play a role in our mental health and well-being, in our cognition. So what was interesting about this study in particular, is that could people in their teens or 20s benefit from carnosine other than some of its known use in improving athletic performance? And the answer is yes. Carnosine can, in fact, help younger people improve cognition. There's probably some exciting research to be done. As a matter of fact, if we took people in their 20s and had them use carnosine throughout their life, would there be a decrease in conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, other neurodegenerative conditions? That would be a fantastic study. Okay, therapeutic potential of carnosine supplementation against cognitive decline. And again, the conclusion of this study is yes, there's a connection here. I'm going to keep things moving so we can get to some of the fun stuff. Okay, I think you're probably getting the idea here. Carnosine improves cognitive impairment. The impact of carnosine on biological aging. So I wanted to throw this one up here. We are talking about cognition today. We're talking about brain health. But of course, we talk very frequently about the anti-aging effects of copper peptide, that it resets thousands of genes, about 4,000 genes, to a more youthful state. Carnosine should not be underestimated. One of its effects is that it protects the telomeres. So the telomeres, of course, are the rods on the end of chromosomes that control the number of times our cells can divide. Carnosine protects those telomeres. In some animal studies with mice and rats, it's been shown that carnosine can improve their lifespan by 30 to 40%. So this is to say, we get the short-term benefits with nutrients like copper peptide and carnosine in improving our overall health and our cognition, but there are many long-term benefits. So this article here talking about the long-term benefits of carnosine relative to aging. All right. Now, let's talk about some supplements that you can take or some dietary changes that you can make to improve cognition and also sexual health and well-being. After all, we still are in the summer months, so we probably should be talking about this. It comes up time after time in numerous studies, and you speak with enough medical doctors that are clinical nutritionists, and one of the top supplements they're going to recommend is an omega-3. Make sure you're getting enough omega-3s in your diet. This could come from grass-fed beef, could come from bison, as an example, salmon, sardines. No question about it, there is a consistent link between omega-3 consumption and improved cognition. So omega-3, for a whole variety of reasons, should be on list of what you get in your diet or you supplement if there's holes in your diet. Now, this is super interesting because this has come on the radar now over the past few years, and that's creatine. So traditionally, creatine's been at market over 25 years now, and it's been almost exclusively sold for use in improving athletic performance. So that would be common creatine monohydrate. You can go to any health food store today and get a creatine supplement. And the general recommendations have been, if you want to improve strength and stamina, take 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day. But what's been interesting now is two things I want to mention that you have in your toolbox is that supplementation with 20 or 25 grams of creatine can provide an impact on improving the health of the brain and cognition and improve mental performance. This is for the individual to determine. No supplement is completely free of adverse side effects. Some people could experience muscle cramping or bloating by taking too much creatine. So work with your doctor on this. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm a researcher. So use this information wisely. Work with your healthcare practitioner. But one other thing here, I just started trying this and it's so interesting, is that let's say you're switching time zones. Many of us on the call today are going to be building our LifeWave business globally. Many of you may be coming from Europe or Asia, going to California. Very interesting, 20, 25 grams of creatine in a single dose can help you readjust to a new time zone and make you mentally awake so you don't have that brain fog through changing time zones. So really interesting tool for you to experiment with. I would still say staying with 5 grams of creatine daily is probably a good idea, so because it's so well recognized to be safe. But again, this is something worth experimenting with. Work with your doctor. All right, let's get into some other fun stuff here, and that is Cyanfox. Cyanfox is an ingredient that we have included in Celergize, which has been shown to activate and mobilize and improve the health of stem cells. And other studies have shown that Scienthox improves your memory, cognition, and focus. Most people have told us that in one serving of Celergize, they get an immediate improvement in circulation and an immediate improvement in cognition. And ingredients like potassium, citrulline, and Scienthox are some of the reasons why they experience that. So, amongst all the other benefits of taking Celergize, improving cognition is yet another one. Okay, what else can we do to improve cognition? Well, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that our body makes. If you're taking Celergize, you've got two critical ingredients there. You have L-citrulline, which is a precursor to arginine to making nitric oxide, and citrulline is a better way to get the raw materials in your body as opposed to arginine for a variety of reasons. And potassium. We have 500 milligrams of potassium that's in Celergize, and potassium helps to recycle nitric oxide, to keep your nitric oxide levels elevated. And nitric oxide is a vasodilator, and it's going to improve circulation in the brain. And many people, when they take Celergize, they can feel this. Well, this is one of the nutrients I'm going to mention here. There's a surprise one coming up I'm going to show you momentarily. But nitric oxide, of course, improves both male and female sexual performance. For men, it's going to improve circulation, and it's going to improve the ability of men to get erections. So men that are suffering with erectile dysfunction should be looking at what type of exercise they're doing, losing some weight, making sure they're getting enough cardio, lose some weight around the waist, lose that visceral fat, and supplement with nitric oxide. And the added benefit is you're going to improve the health of your brain. Now, here's a really interesting one. This may be a nutrient that many of you have never heard of before, but it's called Carnosine. Carnosine is, the chemical name is acetylcholine, and Carnosine will elevate choline in the brain, which in turn elevates acetylcholine, one of the principal neurotransmitters. Well, one of the things that's been discovered is that increasing acetylcholine levels in the brain is intimately linked, no pun intended, to male sexual health and libido. So in other words, Carnosine was designed to improve memory. That was the initial focus. Have a molecule that can improve short-term memory, long-term memory, speed of processing, protect the brain, but an outcome of doing that is that Carnosine can improve male libido and improve male sex drive. Now, here was a funny story. I don't want to dwell too long on this, and again, I want to move quickly. But this is, to me, a rather humorous story about if you're a man and you're over the age of 60 and you're saying, well, I'm in my 70s, you know, my libido has been suppressed for a lot of years here. Could this potentially help me? Well, here is a case where a man was using a choline supplement, and he went into a state of hypersexuality, and that supplementation had to be discontinued. Enough said. So if you're 79 or younger, yes, there's still hope. Okay, and then over at Life Extension, really solid company here, how to naturally enhance libido. And you'll find it interesting that when they're talking about libido, they're showing 4 neurotransmitters: dopamine, acetylcholine, GABA, and serotonin. So very often when a man is aging, woman is aging, they're losing sex drive, the answer is not to go on pharmaceutical drugs. It's about balancing these neurotransmitters in the brain. So if we can balance our dopamine, elevate acetylcholine, elevate GABA, we're not only improving our libido, our sexual health, but we're getting these phenomenal improvements in cognition. which is also going to translate into improved energy in the body through improved mitochondrial function. So that's a lot of information to dump on you, but this is just to say uh, that there is a sexy part to improving memory, focus, cognition, and I think most of you would enjoy those side benefits. So, Wayne, I'd be delighted to take any questions.
David, thank you for sharing the information, and thank you for um, the additional spicy information that you provided above and beyond the marketing the marketing initial request. But we did have several questions come in. One around with the Carnosine and the X39 patch. Do you recommend using them simultaneously? Is it better to have, someone mentioned that they use that at night? What's your recommendation on how to apply and when to use?
So, we currently recommend applying X39 during the day, and carnosine is super interesting because it can be applied during the day or in the evening. There's some patches like glutathione that I would recommend only applying during the day because the detox effect with glutathione is so strong. Eon also, of course, can be used during the day at night. With carnosine, for most people, I would say use it during the day. However, some people use it at night with very interesting effects. For example, if you place carnosine on the right temple or in the center of the forehead, it can make dreams extremely intense. Some people will enjoy this. My brain is awake most of the time anyway, so more intense dreams are a little overwhelming. So I tend to use the carnosine patch during the day. But many people may want to try using carnosine at night, and that's so totally okay.
That's great. Thank you. There was another question. You mentioned the stem cells and reaching that age 60, is an important milestone. Is there a sense for the percentage of decline or impacted stem cells by that age, by 60?
Over 60%.
Oh,
And
wow.
the reason why we know this is that, uh, as you know, we put 10 years and 4.3 million US dollars into stem cell research. And several different data points came up. The first one was when we were at the Regenerative Medicine Institute in Ireland. We were working with Dr. Tim O'Brien and Dr. Michael Crane. And we were cultivating mesenchymal stem cells. And I'm from New Jersey, and I pronounce things differently than most people. Uh, that's how they pronounce it over in Ireland. We pronounce it differently here in the U.S., but I use the Irish pronunciation: mesenchymal stem cells. Anyway, we found that when you cultivate MSCs from people over the age of 60, the motility and the release of growth factors. There's important growth factors like IGF-1 and VEGF that come out of stem cells. And these decline by about 60% over the age of 60. Now, what's interesting about that is that that directly correlates with the body's levels of copper peptide. So Dr. Picard found that over the age of 60, levels of copper peptide were going down 60 to 80%. So we can see this direct correlation between decline in copper peptide and decline in stem cell activity. So it's very important if we want to maintain the ability of our body to repair damaged tissue, to refresh cells. So this is such an important part of stopping aging. Then we have to maintain the health and vitality of stem cells, protect them from oxidative and inflammatory stress, restore their control mechanisms.
Thank you. I didn't realize it was so significant by age 60. That brings up another question. You talked about the study that showed the improvement in younger adults with cognitive improvement. I'm curious, oftentimes we don't start becoming really aware of the importance of cognitive health until a little bit later in life. For those of us, I'm now over 50. I'm curious, at what point do we need to help family members or those of us that are below that age get really serious about our cognitive health?
Well, we can start thinking, well, there's a few different ways of answering that. If we were talking 100 years ago, when we didn't have the problems with microplastics and fertilizers and the air pollution, heavy metals, before we had that, um, that would the conversation would be focused on diet, exercise, sleep, proper nutrition, supplementation, um, and we could expect some reasonable outcomes. And maybe we say, well, if people are age 30 or 40, then that would be the age when, okay, maybe they abuse their body. They should start really thinking about turning things around. But the circumstance today has changed dramatically. We have to deal with the stress of genetically modified foods. There's so much crap that's being put in the food, overly processed food. People aren't getting the nutrients that they should. And, I could go on and on with this. So, this is to say that biologically speaking, people are aging starting at about 25. At about age 25 is when the fibroblasts begin to slow down in production of collagen, maybe even a little bit before 25. So that's a little bit depressing to think that we start aging then. But this is to say that there's good literature, there's good research that if we start as young as possible, so let's say someone's in their teens, they're 20, they should have a plan in place for eating healthy, drinking enough water, getting proper rest. I know that's a big ask for someone in their 20s. But I would say the earlier that someone starts, way, way better.
That's great. It's definitely something that we can all remember to help inspire, those of our family members, those of our loved ones, that we really want to help make sure that they're taking this seriously as early as possible. So on the initial study that showed the brain scans, I believe you mentioned that they were 60-year-olds and looking at 3 week mark and then the 6 week mark. A couple questions came in. Would you see similar results for someone, in their 70s, in their 80s, as far as the time for impact?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the exciting things about this. I had spoken with Dr. Neil Hirschenbein, who was on the board of clinical nutritionists. He's a medical doctor and clinical nutritionist. Haven't spoken with him in a while yet, but what he had said to me was fascinating is that studies were done with human beings over the age of 80, and they found that they had no telomeres on their chromosomes. And experiments showed that you could, in fact, regenerate the telomeres. So it seems as if we have people do the right things, which would mean, let's say, as an example, we took the nutrient oxytocin, which is associated with love. There's clinical data that shows you take people in their 80s and we can regenerate old muscle cells to that of someone in their 20s. Very, very exciting. There's studies that Dr. Bruce Ames has done showing that you can take old cells, people in their 70s, using acetyl L-carnitine and alpha lipoic acid and regenerate those cells back to 20, 30-year-old. So there is evidence that shows even in human beings, we can restore older cells to a younger state. So, the goal, basically, people in our field that are researching this are saying, hey, there's no reason why we can't regenerate every cell in the body back to a more youthful state. And then people outside the community say, no, 115 is the age limit. And I'm going to be presenting some evidence on this at our conference in October. But yeah, no, this is to say that the longer that someone lives, information is advancing at such a rapid pace that the likelihood is that, let's say within 10 years, 15 years, there will be technology to reverse completely
David, I think you froze there on us. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, we'll give it a couple minutes here. Luckily, this happened at the end part, and not at the beginning of this webinar.
That seemed to have been at my end.
There. Okay, you're back. You're
Apologies.
back. No, that was really exciting. So again, no matter what age we're at, it's important to start using these products because we all will see a benefit. We have the opportunity to continue to reverse aging and improve wellness at any age.
I would say, with X2O, uh, with the preliminary blood and urine data and bioelectrical data, we see the potential for reversing part of the aging process. We don't know what percentage yet, because we've been waiting for the finished machines to become available so we can do some of these long-term testing on epigenetic panels, telomere length. Those are studies that we're looking forward to. We have new technology that we're developing that you know a little bit about, that's extraordinarily exciting, that takes this one step further yet. So the more that we look at species that don't age and are defying the aging process, the more we learn, and the math completely lines up where we say, okay, there's no reason why this shouldn't work in human beings. And importantly, we don't have to wait around, 10 years to see if it works. We can see the benefits within 6 months, and we can see some immediate health benefits the first day and even week of testing.
David, we've got just a couple minutes left. Thank you for sharing these studies on our products, other things we can do from a diet and lifestyle perspective to improve our health. So thank you for inspiring and empowering us with these wonderful products and tools. I want to end with one question for you. Since this is the 21st anniversary, I'm curious what some of your thoughts are. It's so rare. Most companies don't last 12 months, let alone 21 years. As you look back over these last 21 years, what's coming to mind today on this special anniversary?
First, I would say that if someone has a dream in their life of something that they want to achieve, that they shouldn't let anyone stop them. That if it's something close to their heart, they should pursue it, even in the face of family and friends telling them, hey, you're crazy, you're not going to be able to do this. Absolutely, you should press on if it's something that you really want to do. Be the person that you were meant to become. Over those 21 years, we have faced an enormous number of challenges. As a matter of fact, I would say, the first 15 years were replete with challenges. And I'm grateful for every one of those challenges. There's a saying that goes, it's in fire that gold is purified. And so if we pray, look for guidance, we truly wish to help others, we look towards the highest good, God will absolutely direct us on the correct path. But it does require patience, persistence, hard work. And when you face a challenge and you overcome it, there's a tremendous satisfaction, and you also change for the better in the process. So I would say that on your journey, embrace the challenges. Look at those as opportunities to grow and improve, become better, and do it for yourself and do it for your loved ones, do it for the world around you. We have this incredible opportunity to improve the world around us with our products, healing the body with light. And I'm looking forward to 5 and 10 years from now when people are using not only the patches, but X2O and other technologies that we come out with, and that people are filling their body with light. What type of impact will that have had on the world? Will it improve human consciousness and get people to live in a higher state of love and care for one another? So I think what's awesome is that even after 21 years, 23 years, we're still getting started, and really feel that the best days are still ahead.
Thank you, David. I wish you could see all the comments coming in. There's so much gratitude and love and appreciation being shared for you and for LifeWave. Thank you for your perseverance. And I think we have a new saying that will be spoken a lot around here. It's in fire, the gold is purified. And I think that is an amazing philosophy. So thank you from all of us, David, and happy anniversary.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody. God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.